Okay, I want to welcome everyone and thank you for being here. Want to introduce Andrew Harrell with No Kid Hungry NC, and I'm going to let you introduce your team today. We appreciate you being back with us. We had them in person in Durham, and so now we are virtual for this month with the Whole Child Conference. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us back. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm going to turn things over to Julie Pittman, our Educator Outreach Manager here in North Carolina for No Kid Hungry.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Lily. We're really excited to be here today to really talk about school nutrition during the time of COVID. We've got an exciting panel that is going to be with us today, and Andrew's going to be managing our slides for us, so we'll just do an audible cue on that. You can find us online at nokidhungrynorthcarolina.org or at Twitter at NoKidHungryNC. We've got a special thing that we're going to talk about a little bit later called NC Toy Stories, and you'll hear a little bit more about that today. We're just really excited to be able to share what's happening across the state and what you can do to try to help us. So, Andrew, if you'll click to the next slide. Today, we're going to hear from Beth Maynard, who's the Executive Director of Child Nutrition Services in Cumberland County Schools. We're also going to hear from our North Carolina Teacher of the Year for 2020, Maureen. She is also at Cumberland County Schools. And then we have two of her North Carolina Teacher of the Year teammates with her, Daniel Scott, who is the Regional Teacher of the Year from Onslow County Schools, and Maggie Murphy, who's from Alleghany County Schools. So welcome to our panelists and welcome to everyone who is here today. If you will, while we're getting started, I'm going to talk you through a little bit about COVID by the numbers, the COVID spike, and why this is really important to me, and how we can really look at this issue as a whole child issue. While we're doing that, if you would, in the chat, down at the bottom, if you open up your chat feature, you can click on the chat, and if you'll just tell us your name and what role you play, or why you're interested in this particular panel. And then if you have any questions, please post those questions in the chat, and we will open up questions at the end, but also try to manage some of those questions throughout. So Andrew, if you'll click to the next slide, please. So from March 16th to the end of the summer, schools and community partners served 42 million meals to all kids ages 18 and under in North Carolina. What that means is any child from birth to 18 could come to one of the feeding sites that was either a school or a community partner that was serving meals, and pick up breakfast and lunch, sometimes an after-school snack or a nighttime meal. Some places were serving over the weekend. And if you think about what that means, North Carolina has approximately 1.5 million students who are enrolled in a public school. And so during that time from March 16th until the end of the summer, we fed 42 million meals. And that means breakfast, lunch, after-school snack, or after-school dinner. This is a huge success compared to the rate of meals that's served average during the summer. However, compared to the rate of meals that served during the normal school year, it was less than half of the average. So if you take into consideration that on a normal week across the state of North Carolina, we would serve around 1.2 million meals. We were serving an average of 500 million meals. So what happens to the other 700 meals? I'm sorry, let me back up. 1.2 million meals, we were serving 500,000 meals. So what happens to the other 700,000 meals that were being served? Were there some students who were eating meals that normally wouldn't eat meals? Probably. And were there some students who were normally eating meals that weren't able to get access to the meals? Definitely true. So next slide, please. From February of 2020 until May of 2020, food insecurity in North Carolina more than doubled, rising from 11.7% to 24%. That's 1 in 4 kids, whereas before it was around 1 in 6 to 7 kids in North Carolina. Now it's 1 in 4 kids. Nationally, food insecurity has tripled among households with children. And now many school nutrition programs must try to meet the need in different venues, remote and in person, with fewer resources because we're having less reimbursement of funds, fewer staff, and higher packaging costs. This is a really important issue because these school nutrition programs were basically the only programs that were working when school shut down by order of the governor on March 16th. Those school nutrition programs came in, some of them overnight, and completely flipped how they were serving meals, making sure that the schoolhouse was the place where kids were able to have some stability, were able to get nutritious meals on a weekly basis, and were able to make sure that they got a smiling face. Sometimes the only reason why kids come to school is to get school meals. And so this stayed true all through the spring and in some cases throughout the summer. Next slide, please. It's really important to be able to understand from a variety of aspects, no, not yet, yeah, we'll stay right there, from a variety of aspects, what this actually means. For me, this is a personal issue because as a high school teacher for more than 18 years, I would see kids come to school and school was the only place where they were able to get a meal. Sometimes students would go home and not have a meal until they came back the next day, or think about that over the weekend. They were not going to get a meal over the weekend. And so I would see students who were packaging food in their backpacks, taking home extra meals that they would save to either take home for themselves or their younger siblings. And when we're able to make sure that we're feeding our kids, it is such a vital part of the school culture. You see, everybody comes to school as an educator. I'm an educator. I teach, I'm a high school English teacher. I have been up until this past year. I'm there to educate my kids, but I can't do that, which is the highest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if we're not fulfilling the base level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That base level of Maslow's is food and security and shelter and safety. If we can't feed our kids, then we can't graduate them to those higher levels. It's such an important aspect. I always say that when we're trying to educate our kids without making sure that they're fed, if they come to the classroom hungry, it's like trying to put a roof on a house that has no foundation, and it will fall. And when I see schools and school nutrition programs and school nutrition professionals and teachers and principals and community partners come together to ensure that our kids are being fed, it warms my heart because I know that at the heart of a school is the cafeteria. And at the heart of a kid's ability to learn is their stomach. When their stomachs are full, then we're able to feed them every other aspect. Our kids come to the schoolhouse for every level of Maslow's. So as an educator, we are all that. Beth Maynard and all of the child nutrition professionals, they are educators. Bus drivers are educators, sometimes the very first faces that our kids see. People who are the custodians, they're also educators, making sure that they are treating our kids with kindness and giving them a school that is worthy of them being able to learn in, and they are also able to teach our kids the type of things that go beyond just curriculum. They're teaching our kids valuable life lessons. And so when we all band together and make sure that our kids are being fed both body and mind, but also soul, then we are going to make sure that we have the best citizenry that we can, and that is ultimately our job as whole child professionals, to make sure the whole child is met. That's why this is such an important topic for me. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker, and this is Beth Maynard. So Andrew, I guess we can just come back to our speaker view if you want to, so we can see our speaker faces. If you all are looking at your screen, you can see in the top right hand corner, if you're on a computer, the view button. If you want to see the speaker, if you click on speaker versus gallery or full screen, you'll be able to see hopefully who the speaker is. I hope that's the case. So Beth Maynard. Beth is the Executive Director, as I said, for School Nutrition in Cumberland County Schools. Beth, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us what's going on with school nutrition in Cumberland County. Specifically what you guys did during the spring and summer, and then how that shifted into the fall during school.
Good afternoon, Julie, and thank you for having me. And I'd like to thank No Kid Hungry for all that you've been doing as a leader in our community to help aid children, and the teachers on board here to who are on the front lines teaching our children our future. So thank you for all that you do. Here in Cumberland County, we hit the ground running as soon as the governor closed the schools back in March. From 15 minutes after he made the announcement on television, we were working. And we came in on Sunday to prepare so that on the very first day of school, we hit the ground running with curbside meals. So we immediately set up 16 of our schools to operate as drive-through meal sites. We consolidated our staffing, we consolidated our food supplies. And the reason why we did that is because we really had no idea how many people were going to come out to receive the meals, if they were going to come immediately, or if there was going to be a time delay until they run through their groceries at home. But to our surprise, on day one, after the school closures, we had lines of cars at every single one of those 16 sites 30 minutes prior to the start of our service time. And it remained that way throughout the school year, which was truly a testimony to the need that was out there to receive these meals. We served over 1 million meals in the remaining 9 weeks of school back in the spring. In addition to our 16 meal sites, we utilized some of the yellow school buses to transport meals to pockets of homeless students that we knew were living in a number of hotels around our community. We tried to visit public housing developments and neighborhoods in the attendance areas of our highest poverty schools to ensure that those children were getting meals on a daily basis. Over the summer, we continued this, but we consolidated down to 10 sites. We served from the end of the last school year to the beginning of this school year 1.5 million meals. Our parents throughout were very expressive of appreciation for what we were offering. So many gave testimonies to their staff at their meal site about how much it meant to them and their households, their families. Some gave their testimonies with tears in their eyes, saying they were really worried about how they were going to survive, and it meant so much to them. So it was very heartwarming for our staff to receive that appreciation, because they were putting themselves out there on the lines, and so it would rejuvenated a lot of their spirits to get that feedback. So that's what we have been doing from the spring until summer. Currently, when the school year began this year, we expanded our meal service to 49 schools, trying to truly make sure there was meals available within a certain proximity throughout our county, trying to make it as convenient as possible for our parents. but we continue to find that a lot of parents were not participating in the drive-through program, and for many reasons. Sometimes it was they didn't have the time to get to the meal sites because they were trying to work. Some didn't have transportation. So we did a couple of things to address those issues. Is one, we started a 5-day meal bundle program that just started earlier this month, and that allows parents to pick up. They can have a pickup times at noon or in the evening at 10 locations throughout the county, so they could pick up a 5-day meal bundle for their students instead of having to visit a site on a daily basis. And we launched partnerships with our Second Harvest Food Bank. We've actually had a partnership with them throughout, but one of our religious organizations in the community is coordinating volunteers to offer delivery service to families that cannot pick up a meal bundle or daily meal.
Yeah, thank you. I know there are a lot of districts who are doing that and really trying to be innovative in the ways that they are reaching their students. And I know that your staff and your different sites have just had an incredible opportunity, especially this month, to really try to increase participation. I know that was a real success, but it was also a challenge because of the fatigue that everyone's been feeling, because school nutrition really has been the superheroes of this of schools during COVID-19 closure, in order to try to make sure that kids are being met. Can you talk a little bit about some of the successes and some of the innovative things that you've done in the competitions and the excitement that the school nutrition programs have, and the folks that are so dedicated in your community have been doing to try to really drive up participation?
Well, one of the things that I realized is during the regular school operations, our cafeterias are very creative. The staff is so creative in creating bulletin boards that are fun and cheerful. The serving lines are so nicely decorated to create a fun atmosphere, pleasant atmosphere for the children to come into every day when they come through the meal service lines. So I said there's no reason why we cannot do that at the curbside as well. So we launched a different curbside promotions. The first one was Welcome Back to School. So our meal sites decorated their curbsides with welcome back banners and things of that nature. And another promotion, we had what we called a backyard school lunch with a backyard adventure. We obtained some programs from the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation that included some educational activities for children to do in their backyards, to search for trees, leaves, birds, bugs to identify. And we gave them that pamphlet along with their meal, and we made the meal up very picnic style. And we decorated the curbs in picnic styles and backyard activities, and our staff dressed up as big ladybugs and butterflies and things of that nature to entertain the children when they came through the line. And we made it a contest to decorate, and our staff really, they had fun. They were quite elaborate, and the children were quite entertained. And we just this week we're doing what we call school lunch, and well, actually, I'm sorry, it is Willy Wonka and the School Lunch Factory is our theme this week. And so we have many of our curb sites decorated and people dressed as Willy Wonka and Oompa Loompas. And they're entertaining the children this week. We're offering a golden ticket in some of the meals. So if the children find a golden ticket, then they can bring it back on Friday to get an extra treat with their meal. And we're using product that we had that we would normally sell as a la carte, that we don't want them to expire before our children are back in the school buildings. So we're using those as extra treats that we could add to the meals on Friday. And it also kind of stimulates the trick-or-treating type theme since this is Halloween week. But what all this has been for the purpose of making the children feel excited to come back through and have some sense of normalcy to see their cafeteria staff. We have some of our principals and teachers that are join them from time to time to see the children, and that's been exciting. So the children really do like coming through the line and seeing their school family. Our staff enjoy it because they really miss the children because they're so used to interacting with them, knowing what's going on in their lives, knowing if they, you know, got a good grade on a test. Our staff really interacts with them. So it's a means of having some interaction with the kids, and it really feeds their hearts. So we've had a lot of success with that.
Yeah, I just really love that you said it gives purpose to what you're doing, and it allows your cafeteria staff to be seen. I think when we think about Whole Child, and really what the purpose is in Whole Child, is that every single person wants to be seen. They want to be seen for who they are and who they can be. Like, what is that great possibility? And you and your staff have created just such an incredible culture of purpose and being seen and valuing that each individual, both the people who are behind the line, who are handing out meals, but also the kids who are driving up and their families. The fact that you pointed out that the families have been able to talk and tell their stories, I think sometimes we just have to be seen and heard. And what a great testament to your leadership and to the dedication of your team. I'm just so excited about sharing your story and hoping that other districts and other people can see this and really elevate it. I want to ask you two quick final questions before we move on to Maureen, and that is, how has participation, I know you've talked a little bit about participation, how has participation been impacted by COVID-19 compared to last year? And then what can we as interested stakeholders do to try to connect with school nutrition and help you reach more kids and eliminate the barriers?
Julie, our participation has been significantly decreased from last year. On a normal school day, we're serving about 60% of the students that we would normally serve breakfast. And that number can be further adjusted if you reduce the number of siblings that are preschool age, not quite in school. So we're serving less than 60% of our students breakfast, and we're only serving about 30% of our students lunch. So that is very concerning, and so we're continuing to try to find creative ways to reach more students. But we know there's various barriers to the children being able to get to the meals. I do also want to say that as a follow-up to a previous comment, that I had a mother back in the spring make a comment about how her children look forward to visiting the schools on a daily basis to pick up their meals because it gives them a connection, an additional connection to the school beyond just their teacher over the computer screen, that they're physically seeing somebody, even though they can't touch them, they can't get out of the car, but they felt like it gives their child a sense of normalcy to come by and see their cafeteria staff. So I think that means a lot as far as keeping the children attached and healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. In regards to assisting us in child nutrition and the school districts, one of our biggest challenges would be some of our school administrators and teachers who are not quite embracing school nutrition as a crucial component to a child's readiness to learn. So that would be very helpful if more administrators and teachers recognize the value of nutrition to a child's ability to learn. Rather than viewing the meals in the classroom as an additional duty or taking away from instructional time, perhaps viewing it as an aid to preparing the children to learn. That would be wonderful if that was a common mentality.
Yeah, I love what Dr. Lynn Harvey says. Dr. Lynn Harvey is the Chief of Child Nutrition for North Carolina Public Schools, and she says that school meals fuel learning success. And they are the best way right now for our kids to be able to have that connection with the school and to be able to be as successful as we can. There are so many obstacles to learning in this environment, either virtually learning or only learning part-time at the schoolhouse. So making sure that our kids are fueled and ready to learn will do a lot to help combat what we are hearing in a lot of chatter around learning loss and about developmental loss. When our kids are hungry, it exacerbates the developmental losses. It also will exacerbate the ability to learn and be successful. So thank you so much for what you were doing. And I love what you said also about embracing meals as a valuable part of the child's education, and about really looking at the whole child from the inside out and being able to see those children. So with that, I want to look at one of your rock star teachers from your district, who is our 2020 North Carolina Teacher of the Year, none other than Maureen Stover. So Maureen, we're so proud to have you here today. And I'd love to be able to have you introduce yourself a little bit and really talk about how school nutrition meets the basic needs of kids, and sort of how you see that play out in classrooms. Maureen?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Julie. And before I get started, I would just like to say that Beth has done an extraordinary job of ensuring that the kids in Cumberland County are being fed. The things that she and her team have done, their creativity, their innovation for getting kids to our meal pickup places and making families feel welcome when they arrive has just been amazing. As a teacher in the county and as a mom in the county, I'm incredibly thankful for the work that she and her staff have done to take care of the kids in our county. She is truly an advocate for our kids, and it's very much appreciated. So thank you very much, Beth. I am Maureen Stover, and as the 2020 Burroughs Wellcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year, I'm honored to be part of today's discussion about the importance of robust child nutrition programs. Prior to my opportunity to be an educational ambassador in North Carolina, I taught high school science and advancement via individual determination, which is also known as AVID. It's a college preparatory class at Cumberland International Early College High School in Cumberland County. My school is in a low wealth community, and many of my students qualify for free and reduced lunch programs. As a teacher, I have witnessed firsthand how impactful the child nutrition programs are for my kids. For some of our students, the meals they eat at school are the only healthy meal they eat that day. As a biologist, I know how important proper nutrition is for brain development. We want our schools to be a place where our students can thrive and where they can reach their ultimate potential. As educators, we are dedicated to helping our students develop socially, emotionally, and intellectually. We want our students to be able to create products with their content knowledge and to be college and career ready when they exit our pre-K-12 public schools. But in order to meet these goals, we must first meet our students' basic needs. Many of the students enrolled in our public school systems live in food deserts and face food insecurity every day. That is their reality. As educators, we need to recognize that reality and be part of the solution to ensure our students have nutritious meal choices that promote cognitive and physical development. As a teacher, I have seen how effective programs such as free and reduced breakfast and lunch programs, second chance or grab and go breakfasts, and other innovative meal programs can be for my students. When my students are eating healthy, nutritious breakfasts, and they know they're going to be eating a filling lunch, they are ready to learn. They can focus on academics because they are not hungry. Their stomachs are not growling, and they are not literally counting down the minutes and saying, Mrs. Stover, how much more time do we have until we go to lunch every 5 minutes? Because they're not hungry. The meal nutrition programs we provide in our public schools are an integral part of educating the whole child because they enable our kids to be present for learning because they are not worried about where their next meal is coming from. The North Carolina Teachers of the Year team realizes the importance of robust child nutrition programs in our state. And I'm so excited that our team will have an opportunity to partner with No Kid Hungry NC to share our stories and personal experiences of the positive impact that our child nutrition programs have had on the children in our classrooms. Over the next few weeks, No Kid Hungry will be publishing stories from all of the North Carolina Teachers of the Year. These teachers will represent 8 North Carolina regions from the mountains to the sea, and will also represent traditional public schools and charter schools. You will be hearing from teachers who teach at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. Each teacher's story will provide a glimpse into the importance of the child nutrition programs and will share their perspective on how these programs impact the kids that are sitting in their classrooms. While you will hear stories from diverse regions and grade levels, there will be a commonality, and that is the positive impact that the child nutrition programs have on the children enrolled in our public schools. Since 2011, No Kid Hungry has worked with community partners to connect kids in need with nutritious food. I am so excited that today you will hear from 2 of my teammates, Daniel Scott and Maggie Murphy, who will share information about the meal programs in their regions. As educators, we know that feeding our students and meeting their basic needs is a priority. We are thrilled that the 2020 North Carolina's Teachers of the Year team can collaborate with No Kid Hungry to share our experiences with innovative meal programs. Through this partnership, we can share the unique ways that school districts across our state are meeting our students' basic needs and combating food insecurity. We are so excited to tell our stories and to continue promoting innovative ways to meet each child's unique needs.
Thank you so much, Maureen. We could not ask for a better ambassador than you and your team. And I can tell everyone that I have been collecting these stories from your team, and they are so exciting. So we kicked off on Monday with an introductory video by Maureen. And I've asked Andrew if he will put it into the chat, the contact information for you all again, so that you can follow these stories on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can, we'll be posting them on our website. This is going to be a really exciting way for teachers to tell the unique perspective of how kids are affected by school nutrition. And I can tell you some of these stories are going to bring a tear to your eye because they are so incredibly personal and so incredibly impactful. So thank you, Maureen and your team. I want to talk a little bit about the importance of school meals and specifically, statistically, what that can do. So Andrew, if you'll share your screen again, we've got a couple of slides that I think are going to be really helpful for you to understand how school meals are connected to childhood learning and school success. To be advanced to the next slide. 2 years ago, No Kid Hungry and Share Our Strength did had a research study where we looked at how school meals, specifically breakfast as part of the instructional day, can reduce chronic absenteeism. So when school meals are offered as part of the instructional day, not before school or not come and get it if you can, but as part of the actual instructional day, that chronic absenteeism can be reduced by an average of 6 percentage points. That's an incredible average, considering that this is a chronic problem, not just in North Carolina, but all across the country. We are looking at more than 8 million students in America. 16% are considered chronically absent, meaning they miss 3 weeks or more of school each year. And in North Carolina, it's actually, the definition is a little bit higher than that. So how we count chronic absenteeism. Our 2019 study found that instituting school meals, specifically breakfast as part of the instructional day, can not only reduce that, but can also have a direct effect on other types of behaviors like anxiety, loneliness, self-esteem, sadness in early elementary school students, and a secondary effect of increasing standardized test scores and reducing a lot of secondary behavioral problems that students from all across K-12 experience. When you look at before COVID, the statistic for students who were entering kindergarten who had experienced some form of trauma was 35%. 35%, let that sink in, 35% of kindergartners experience some form of trauma before entering their very first classroom in education. That could have meant a parent who lost a job, a parent who was incarcerated, some form of abuse or neglect, homelessness, the inability to know where food was coming from. Trauma can affect young children before the age of 5 in a variety of ways. That was in February. But in March of 2020, 100% of our kindergarten students, in fact, 100% of all of our students, 100% of all of our educators, of our parents, of our business owners, of our medical professionals, of our public works professionals, all of us in the entire world have experienced a trauma. And so how we deal with that is going to mean that we have to look at that base level of Maslow's and build up from there. So look on to the next slide. This goes back to looking at standardized test scores can increase when you start school with a healthy breakfast. I hear from a lot of teachers right now that they're having a hard time dealing with or understanding how we're going to administer state mandated or federally mandated tests. If we're making sure that our kids are fed, then we can maybe reduce the amount of trauma that our kids are going through and help make sure that our kids are going to be successful on these benchmarks so that we can find out where they are and meet them where they are and carry them further. Next slide, please. School meals are an equity issue. In 2019, Black and Hispanic households were roughly twice as likely as white households to experience food insecurity. And when we look at coupling that now with what's happening in our economy, with the amount of job loss and the amount of trauma that our kids are experiencing, that is only going to have an incredible exacerbation in that. So yes, next slide, please. I think did we miss the COVID spike slide? Yeah. So from February 2020 to May 2020, food insecurity in North Carolina has more than doubled. I know we went over this before, but I want you to look at how that has increased and what that means for our students, that we've got to make sure that we're feeding our students. So now I'd like to introduce, I'm going to have Maureen introduce her team, and we're going to hear from Maggie and then Daniel and really understand what this means in our classrooms, both virtually and in person. So Maureen?
All right, thank you so much, Julie. So first up, we'll have Maggie Murphy. Maggie is the 2020 North Carolina Regional Teacher of the Year, and she teaches in Alleghany County. And then we'll be hearing from Daniel Scott, who is also a 2020 Teacher of the Year, and he teaches in Onslow County. So they both have some really unique perspectives and ideas to share with you today. And so I hope you will gain a lot from hearing the way that they're implementing the meal plans in their school districts.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here with you today. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah. Okay, good. I'm so glad to be here with you today. My kiddos are in the classroom with me, so I'm going to spin around so you can see them real quick, and they're going to wave at you. They're working super hard. They've been reading and doing all sorts of things, so I wanted them to get a chance to say hello to you. In Alleghany County, we've implemented several things along the lines of what Beth was speaking about, and I was so glad to hear all those awesome ideas and ways that they're reaching out to students and families. We started just as they did with meal pickup, and quickly moved to meal delivery as we discovered that that was a need in our district. My connection is going in and out back here, but I'll try to stay real still and see if it'll work. Cross my fingers.
Maggie, could you try pausing your video for a little while, and maybe your audio will be a little better for you.
So in our district, we started with our original bus routes, and we used, yeah, I'm sorry. I know it's a little choppy. We used our yellow buses to deliver food, and the first 2 months were able to do that with our faculty, and then as we moved into summer, our class. Okay, I'm very sorry. Okay, so we tried at first, like I said, with our certified staff, and then moved to classified staff as we went through the summer. I'm glad that's working a little better. So that was really beneficial to our kids. It was also really beneficial to our teachers. We were able to see our students, which we were missing terribly. We were able to put books in their hands, not only just food, which was so important to us to have both of those things, that we were able to see their faces and go and give them those resources that they so desperately needed during the school closure time. So as we moved into summer, we were able to continue that, thankfully. And starting back this fall in Alleghany County, we're having face-to-face as well as a virtual option. So we are still feeding both sets of students. We have face-to-face Monday through Thursday, and then we have breakfast and lunch every day. The kids that are off that week have the option to come in and pick up their food really well so far. We do delivery on Fridays when the teachers have a remote day, or the students have a remote day. The teachers alternate Fridays while the building's being cleaned. So it's been really important to us to make sure that has happened for our students and teachers, as well as cafeteria staff. And I love how Beth put that we really are a team that works together, and we can't do it without the other one, you know? And especially on our end, we can't educate these students like we need to without them having access to that food. So we've also partnered with a local food closet who does backpacks for weekends. So that's another way that we try to get food in the hands of our students. Our cafeteria staff also is just amazing, like Beth, and I'll brag on them for bulletin boards and for writing notes to kids on their lunch boxes, and just very they make sure that the kids know that they're loved, not only in the classroom with me, but also in the cafeteria. And that means a lot to me as an educator, and a lot to my students as we go through the line. So it's a place where we practice manners, we love on them a little bit. And then this year we're eating in our room, which has been something new, but like Beth said, it's not anything extra for me. The kids are doing great with it. Our custodians have adjusted and put trash cans closer, you know, those type of things that just make this a partnership that we can all work together to make this work for our students. So I'm thankful to No Kid Hungry for asking me to be here today, and for supporting our cafeteria staffs, for supporting all of our students in North Carolina, and making sure that they have access to the food that they need. So I'll answer any questions that you have, and I hope that you could hear most of that, if not all of it.
Yes, thank you, Maggie. We're really excited to have you here. I can say that I have visited this school, and that cafeteria is the heart of the school, and they've done such an incredible job in their community to be able to really make sure that all kids are fed, and there's little inequity, if none, in that community.
And thank you, Maggie, so much for sharing that perspective from Alleghany County. We appreciated hearing it. So next up, we have Daniel Scott, who's from Onslow County, and he's going to share what they are doing in their district and region to meet the students' needs.
So I just wanted to, hello everyone, first of all, and if my computer starts to do the same thing, I'm in a concrete bubble in my office. So I've got my phone just in case. I'm ready to go. Just let me know and we'll move it straight over. I'm really excited to be here because I think that this is almost an unsung important issue that many people in the community don't actually think about or know about, that we have hundreds of students in our school every single day who the only meal that they get is actually at school. And I think that there are a lot of people in our community who forget those things. So I want to start off with just a short story. I want you to put yourselves in the minds of a 10th grade student who has a math test, and they are coming to school and they were late. So they missed breakfast in that morning and they have to run into their math class. And they're sitting there and they're thinking to themselves, I haven't eaten since lunch yesterday. I forgot to get breakfast, and I didn't get my normal smile that I usually get at breakfast every day as I'm getting my biscuit handed to me by my food service worker. And I'm about to take this test. And then I have to wait all the way until third period until I get the next meal that I have not gotten so far. And I still haven't gotten a smile. That's a reality for a 10th grade student sitting in our building every single day if they're late to school. Now, imagine that same reality if we had a second lunch program, if we had a second chance for that student to get breakfast in second period, and every single muffin or banana is handed out with a smile saying, here you go, glad that we could do this for you. That's what we're talking about today. And I think that is what is so important for us to understand, is that truly, as Julie was saying, students cannot be at their best unless they are first started with food and with the security that they need and the love that they know that they're supposed to get. It reminds me of this saying that comes from the Maasai tribe in West Africa. And this tribe, if you know anything about them, are fierce warriors. And many of the people in the tribe aren't actually parents at all, but they have this saying that is actually a greeting. It's called Kasirian Ngera. And that saying is said as a greeting to every single person in this tribe when they come back from war, when they're just walking down the street. And it means, so, how are the children? Imagine in the American culture if every single person started their greeting with, so how are the children? Not my children, not your children, all of the children. I think that's something that COVID-19 really did change for us, because I know that our community in Swansboro and in Onslow County jumped to action to make sure that all of our kids were being fed. And like I said, many in our community didn't even recognize that we had students who were depending on school meals to make sure that their students and that our kids were fed. And so our community and Swansboro jumped to action. We had 7 churches who were delivering meals to our families who were in outskirts or who didn't have a car and couldn't come to pick up. We had all of our social workers banding together, making sure that every single student who they knew was on free and reduced lunch had the opportunity to either come and pick up a meal or to make sure that we had people from our churches going and delivering to them. In that sense, our community became less about us against them, this or that, and more about we. Reminds me of another term, it's Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. And I think that's what the food services industry has done in this entire situation, and what we as a community have done to make sure that our students' needs are met. Remember that story and remember how we can make such a gigantic impact to making sure that our students are at their best at all times. And I think I'm really proud of the community of food service workers, of social workers, of teachers, of all school staff, how we have come together and made sure our community is together and making sure that the students and the children are okay so that we can answer that greeting with the children are great.
Thank you so much, Daniel, and thank you, Maggie and Maureen. You all can see why this Teacher of the Year team is probably one of the most impactful, banded group of educators I have ever seen in this state. I was a Regional Teacher of the Year back in 2018, and I know my team was so banded together, but I have never seen a group of educators from across the state lock arms and look at the whole child from the beginning until the end, from the classroom to the community, from the cafeteria to the custodian's closet, like this team has. And these are just 3 of the 9, and they are all equally as passionate and impassionate about everything in our community and in our schools. We're almost out of time, but we have about 10 minutes. There are a couple of things that I'd like to say. Number one, I'm going to give you everyone on the call a charge, and I'm going to start with what Daniel said. I charge you in your communities, whatever that word means to you, to do a community call to action and to try to really put the children at the center. Education really is about children and what's good for kids. And if we start that conversation with how are the children, how are they doing emotionally, how are they doing physically, how are they doing spiritually, how are they doing every single day, then we can worry about how are they doing educationally, how are they doing academically, how are they doing beyond that. But how are the children? And understanding when one of those children is not being met, their needs are not being met, all of us are in pain. All of us are not at our most successful. So when we look at the whole child, it's not just about one whole child, but it is about all the children and all of the stakeholders coming together to make this a whole community. That sole purpose is to grow each and every one of these kids so that we have a stronger, better, more healthy, more outgoing, more successful organization, community, state, school system, country, and world. The whole child, all of us. The second call to action would be to look at what's going on in your own district. Call your school, call the principal, call the school nutrition director, introduce yourself and find out who your school nutrition director is. If you need help doing that, one of our team can do that and help connect you in your school. Find out what's happening in your school and how you can help. I know that in my own school district, we do a weekly box pickup. That's a 5-day pickup like Beth was talking about for our virtual students. And that day is on a Wednesday when they're doing that. And there are so many people in the schoolhouse who are not connected with school nutrition who are helping make sure that those meals are packaged and are delivered. So what can you do to really help that? How can you be one of those faces that those kids are seeing every day? And then spread the word, including with people in your own district, about what the importance of school meals can do for our kids and how we can get more kids participating in these school meals. One of the things I didn't know before I really became an advocate for this in the way that I am is how participation in school meals by everyone drives the prosperity of our school nutrition programs. And right now, the USDA in the United States has granted a waiver so that all children, regardless of their socioeconomic background, regardless of if they qualify for free and reduced price meals, can get a free breakfast and a free lunch from now until the end of the school year in June. And what that means is our federal government is able to reimburse our school nutrition programs for each and every meal at the highest possible reimbursement rate. Our school nutrition programs need us to encourage our kids, both at home and at school, to eat meals on a regular basis. Those meals, if a kid eats a breakfast and lunch 5 days a week that are offered by a school cafeteria, our kids will get a week's worth of the of the guaranteed and needed nutrients that they need, not only to learn, but to survive and to thrive. So encourage your kids in the classroom to eat. Encourage your kids on Zoom and on Google Meets to eat. Find out if they're unable to be able to get meals, and then work with your schools to make sure that those kids can get them. So yeah, that's what I have. Make sure we're starting with the kids, because with every kid, all of us thrive when all of our kids do. And then spread the word and get to know how you can help in your school building, in your district. We have several materials and resources that we can give to you so that you can help spread the word about school meals. And we would love to, as a teacher and an advocate, I would love to connect each of you with not only the 3 teachers that we have on our panel today, but with other teachers of the year in your region, in your district. So feel free to please reach out to us. I'm going to drop my email in the chat, and you are welcome to contact me by email or by telephone. I can't type and do my telephone number at the same time, apparently. You're welcome to call or to text me or to send me an email, and I will connect you once we're able to explore the state more in person than we are virtually. I would love to come to your school to tell your story about what's happening with Whole Child, and bring along some teachers of the year in your region and really celebrate what we're doing. I know that Maureen would love to be able to come, and she's a teacher who is on loan this year. She would love to be able to come and tell your story. So please connect with us and let us know how we can help you.